so glad you've joined me for today's video. Our next 4 Sunday Club videos are called Jacob, Israel in the Making. The story of Jacob is jam-packed and sometimes confusing, but we're going to find out about it all together, so don't worry. Do you remember the story of Abraham, the man God chose and made 3 promises to? The promise of land, there would be the promise of descendants, and promised blessing to the whole world. God's promise came true and Abraham had a son called Isaac. We are going to start the Jacob story with Isaac. And don't worry, we'll get to Jacob really soon. Have you ever played a game of hide and seek in the dark or using a blindfold? The only way to find your way about is by using your hands to feel things or to use your ears to hear others moving. Or have you ever played hide and seek and someone shouts, "The game is over, you can come out now." And as soon as you show where you were hiding, they say, "Found you." All along, they were just trying to trick you. How unfair. No one likes to be tricked when they're playing a game, but it's even worse to be tricked about something important. In today's true Bible story, can you find out who was tricked? How were they tricked and how did they feel? In part 1 of today's story, we're starting with Isaac, Abraham's promised son, and he's all grown up with his wife Rebecca. After 20 years, they didn't have any children. How would Abraham's descendants become a big nation if there were no more children? Isaac prayed to God and God answered his prayers. They had twin boys, Esau and Jacob. Esau was the first to be born and he had lots of hair all over his skin. And Jacob came out second and he was holding his brother's heel. Right from the beginning of their lives, even before these two were born, they were always fighting. God told their mum Rebecca that this is how it will always be for them. And one day, the younger brother, Jacob, would be in charge of the older brother, Esau. The boys grew up. Esau was still hairy and he was a great hunter now. Isaac, his dad, loved him more. Jacob was a quiet man and stayed inside the tents. Rebecca, his mum, loved him more. One day, Esau came back from hunting. He was absolutely starving. He would do anything for a bowl of stew that Jacob had been making. Jacob thinks up a plan to get something special from Esau. Jacob says to Esau, "You can have this stew if you give me your special rights as the firstborn son. I want the blessing and riches from our father that will belong to you." Esau is so hungry, he feels he's going to die, so he agrees to give his special birthright to Jacob. Jacob makes Esau promise. There's no taking it back after a promise is made. Well, part 2 of the story happens some time later. When Isaac was very old and blind, he was close to dying, and it was time to give his blessing to Esau as the firstborn son. This blessing meant Esau would become the next person to receive the promises God had made to Abraham. This was the biggest, most special blessing of all. Isaac asked Esau to go hunting and to make him a delicious stew with the animal. Then Isaac would bless Esau. But Rebecca heard what Isaac had said, and while Esau was away, she came up with a sneaky plan to have the blessing go to Jacob because she loved him more. Rebecca dressed Jacob up in Esau's clothing, which smelt of Esau. And Rebecca also covered Jacob's hands and neck with animal fur so it would feel like Esau. Then Rebecca cooked a stew for Isaac just in the way he liked it, and she told Jacob to take it to his father. Do you think this trick would work on old blind Isaac? Let's read to find out what happens. Jacob went into his father and said, "Father." And his father said, "Yes, my son, who are you?" Jacob said to him, "I am Esau, your first son. I have done what you told me. Now sit up and eat some meat of the animal I hunted for you, then bless me." But Isaac asked his son, "How did you find and kill the animal so quickly?" Jacob answered, "Because the Lord your God led me to find it." Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near so I can touch you, my son. If I can touch you, I will know if you are really my son Esau." So Jacob came near to Isaac his father. Isaac touched him and said, "Your voice sounds like Jacob's voice, but your hands are hairy like the hands of Esau." Isaac did not know it was Jacob because his hands were hairy like Esau's hands. So Isaac blessed Jacob. Isaac asked, "Are you really my son Esau?" Jacob answered, "Yes, I am." Then Isaac said, "Bring me the food. I will eat it and bless you." Then Isaac blessed Jacob, saying, "May God give you everything you need and make you very rich. May all countries serve you. May your brothers serve you. May God bless you." Then Esau came back from hunting and made a meal for Isaac and brought it to him. He asked his dad to eat and to give him his blessing. When Isaac heard Esau's voice and felt his arms, he realized he had been tricked. Now it was too late to take back the blessing he gave to Jacob. Isaac and Esau had both been tricked by Jacob. What God told Rebekah came true. Jacob would be in charge of his older brother. Esau decided that after Isaac had died, he would take revenge and kill his brother Jacob. Wow, that is a lot of drama. There were parents who played favourites. Rebekah didn't trust God's timing to bring the blessing. There was Esau, who chose a bowl of stew over his blessing from God. And then there's Jacob, who tricked his brother and his dad, and he even uses God's name as part of the trick. Everyone in this story did something wrong. They all were sinning against God. But despite all of this drama and tricking and lying, God uses it to achieve his purposes. God can take the bad plans of Jacob and Rebekah and can turn them into something that achieves his good plans. How do you feel when you've done something wrong? Do you think you've messed everything up? God is bigger than our mistakes. He promises that his good plans will come true. Think of Jesus. The crowds and the Pharisees had a bad plan. They wanted to kill Jesus. But God had a good plan. Jesus was going to die to take away our sins and save us. It doesn't mean it's okay to be bad or to do wrong things. But it does mean that God is much bigger than we ever imagine. He can do anything. That's us finished our first video about Jacob. I told you this story was jam-packed. In the next video, we'll discover what happens when our sin gets in the way of relationships and how God shows that he can graciously restore all things. See you again soon.